What is the best media to use in our filters? That's a really common question, and the answer is pretty simple. Hello everyone, this is Bentley, and today we're going to talk about filter media. We've been in kind of a series of talking about some of the really common questions that are asked on YouTube, whether this is the most commonly searched question or things like that, and then taking a more deep dive approach, if you will. So, as an example, we talked about, can you have too much oxygen? And today we're going to talk about what is the best media. It is surprising often how much people will ask, what's the best filter, or what's the best media to put in my filter? Is it sponge? This sponge. Ooh. Right? This is an intake sponge, but still, is it sponge? Or is it like one of your ceramic medias? Like these little pellets here. Or maybe something like the Eheim Substrat Pro, these little like ball type medias here. Maybe it's one of my personal favorites, the Bright Water S series. Love this stuff. Or is it something like BioHome Ultimate, basic little cheapo ceramic rings? What is the best filter media? The answer to that is none of them. See, here's the thing. Many things in aquariums, in your fish tanks, in aquatics as a whole, comes down to the nature of how we choose to use them. So whether it is something simple like an air-driven sponge or something more complex like a big canister filter or a hang-on back, that is all going to be part of the question. And what really matters is, honestly, that even something like your plants and your substrate are filter media. They are all there, whether it's ceramic rings, whether it's that super expensive BioHome Ultimate, whether it is just your generic cheapo sponge, Metalamat, fluidized bed filters with like coldness media, whichever media you use, bio balls, right? All of them are there just to do one job, and that job is to provide surface area for beneficial bacteria to grow. Typically, this is for aerobic bacteria, but in the case of things like substrate, and when we start messing with, say, like under gravel filtration, where we're using the substrate as our filter, quotation marks around the word filter, and more to say that the primary housing ground for our beneficial bacteria, usually it's aerobic bacteria, right? Occasionally it can be anoxic or anaerobic, but most commonly, in all aquariums, we're dealing with some form of aerobic bacteria that is converting waste, ammonia, and nitrite into safer, less dangerous compounds, aka nitrate. This is how we basically balance nature inside of a glass box. They're all just there to provide surface area. So realistically, no matter what you might say, there could be a study out there or a product that's claiming like, oh, we provide the most blah, blah, blah per cubic inch or whatever the heck it may be, right? It's all marketing. All of it is in the end marketing. Is there some relevance to like certain medias might have more capacity than others? Maybe. But as far as we're concerned, when we're setting up a glass box, it doesn't matter. You could take the nicest, craziest filter out there, the ADA Superjet, or maybe an Oase Biomaster. Pick your poison, right? Even the Fluval FX6 lines, stuff like that. You can take these big, huge canister filters that have all this room and can be filled with so much thing, and you can fill them with only sponge, or you can fill them with no sponge whatsoever. Regardless, as long as there is something in there with surface area, it could be lava rock. That's it. As long as it has surface area, beneficial bacteria will eventually populate it. Now, what we do want is we want something that's not going to degrade over time, right? We don't want something that's going to slowly crumble. We're not going to put like chunks of wood in our filter. That's probably a bad idea, right? Because over time it's going to degrade. It's going to create its own problem. But things like ceramic medias, sponges, some of the like safe plastics, rock, just pumice, right? All of these things have some level of porousness to them, and those just act as extra grounds for beneficial bacteria to grow on, and then as the water moves through that media, whatever that media is, they are going to process the ammonia and nitrite that are within it and slowly transition it through the nitrogen cycle into a safer compound. typically nitrate. That's it. That's really all that's going on. There's nothing magical. No matter how much you hear about how this is the greatest, most incredible thing ever, anyone who says that this is the best media is selling you something. They are not being factual, because very rarely can they actually give you proper scientific data at a true scientific level. I mean, I could give you some minor experiments, right? We're doing an experiment right here with this anoxic tank. It's actually getting a lot better, I won't lie. But I could do an experiment in this tank, and I could change out the media I'm using in it. I've got Fluval's BioFX with 2 big, huge, chunky sponges in my filter. I could change that out to BioHome Ultimate with like 8 billion bags of it or whatever the hell I can fit in there. And guess what difference I'm going to see in my aquarium? Nothing. Because they're doing the same job. And very rarely are we ever putting fish to a level of capacity and an amount of waste that is going to need these excessive, crazy types of media. You can do very simple things. And often, if you were to go and do the actual math behind it, I'm not that smart. I'm not doing that math. But others have. There is more surface area in a sponge, one of these little guys, than there is in most of those ceramic medias. The only difference is the sponge eventually clogs up, where the ceramic media is a lot less likely to get clogged up. It still can, but it takes significantly longer. That's it. Is there a best media? Nope. There instead is what we need to look at this like this. What is the right media for my situation? If I'm trying to run a purely air-driven tank, right, that's going to change the things I look at. All those crazy ceramic medias don't matter if I'm using an air-driven filtration method. I'm going to start looking typically at sponges or maybe under gravel filtration, and then depending, you might use a breeder box full of this stuff, polyfill. Comes in giant bags, is dirt cheap. But guess what? Even this stuff, which is meant to stuff pillows in the craft world, will house beneficial bacteria. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. You can go buy lava rock at a Home Depot, a Lowe's, a Menards, pick your home store of choice. Wash it really thoroughly. Put it in your filter. You might want to use little media bags just to make it easy, but put it in your filter. Guess what? Over time, beneficial bacteria is going to populate all the surfaces of that lava rock and is going to act just the same in the grand scheme of things of all of your really fancy things. So Seachem Matrix, BioHome Ultimate, Brightwater, S-Series, Eheim, Substrat Pro, pick your media. They're all doing the same thing. To the humble sponge, polyfill, crazy expensive medias, they're all doing the same thing. They're just acting as a ground to provide surface area for beneficial bacteria. That's it. So what's the important lesson? Do you need the fancy media? Probably not. Can you find some benefits from that fancy media? Probably so. Is it something that we are realistically going to notice when we're doing our aquariums? Probably not. But if it makes you feel a little safer here, and you worry a little less about your aquarium because you bought the fancy media versus this, or you bought a more coarse sponge versus a more fine sponge, whatever that difference might be in your filter media, that's what matters. In the end, plants, substrate, sponges, ceramics, whatever we put into our aquarium, even the glass or acrylic surfaces, are going to act as some ground to harbor an amount of beneficial bacteria. The plants do a bunch of filtration on their own. One would argue that actually the best filtration media is right here. Plants. But I guess those saltwater people can't do that, so macroalgae is for saltwater? Huh? But that's it. This is a really simple video, but I think it's important to understand that very often we as hobbyists get attached to one product. This is the best. The best hang-on back is the AquaClear. The best light is the blah. The best this is the that, right? Whatever that may be.
We get focused on this too much, when the real answer is that there are a number of different solutions that are going to work in a way that we will not be able to tell the difference. Other than a pure opinion, Bentley's favorite light is the, or, maybe it's, John's favorite or Jane's favorite, whatever it may be. Everyone's going to have their favorite thing because they get accustomed to it and they get used to it. And that's perfectly okay. But to objectively say that any one thing is better than another, no one's doing that. They're lying to you. If someone tells you this is the best X, it's all opinion. That's the important lesson today. You can use basically whatever media you want as long as it's aquarium safe. And in the long run, what you are going to notice is it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. They're all going to have beneficial bacteria grow on them, and that's going to filter your aquarium. And that's going to keep your fish safe. And as long as you don't overfeed or overstock or completely ignore your maintenance, your fish are going to do just fine, no matter which products you purchase. That's it, gang. I really hope you've enjoyed this video. If you learned something, let me know in the comments down below. Maybe you've had an experience where you're going to go, Bentley, clearly you're wrong. This is the best. Feel free to let me know in the comments down below. If you're not subscribed, consider subscribing. It's the best way to get tips and tricks videos like this. We do live streams once a week. We do all sorts of product testing. I'll be picking up one of the new AquaClear filters relatively soon and going through kind of what the changes are and doing some testing on one of my tanks. So if you're interested in that, stay tuned. That's coming relatively soon. And yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this. As always, my friends, thank you so much for watching, and stay awesome.